Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Kholila wulandari. I'm from class 3.1. Today, I wanna explain about diachronic dimension. Diachronic linguistics is the study of a language through different periods in history. Diachronic linguistics is one of the two main temporal dimensions of language study identified by Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure in his course in general linguistics. In linguistics, synchronic analysis is one that views linguistic phenomena only at a given time, usually the present, but a synchronic analysis of a historical language form is also possible. It may be distinguished from diachronic, which regards a phenomenon in terms of development through time. Diachronic linguistics is the historical study of language, whereas synchronic linguistics is the geographic study of language. Diachronic linguistics refers to the study of how a language evolved over a period of time. Tracing the development of English from the Old English period to the 20th century is a diachronic study. A synchronic study of language is a comparison of language or dialects, various spoken differences of the same language, used within some defined spatial region and during the same period. Is one of the subjects of historical linguistics. The subfield of linguistics that studies language is in its historical aspect. Sometimes the term diachronic linguistics is used instead of historical linguistics as a way of referring to the study of language or language at various points in time and at various historical stages. Language change is the phenomenon by which permanent alterations are made in the future and the use of a language over time. All natural language change and language change affect all areas of language use. Types of language change include sound change, lexical change, semantic change, and syntactic change. The branch of linguistics that is expressly concerned with change in a language over time is speculate about the cause of language change. The problem is not one of thinking up possible causes, but of deciding which to take seriously. Even when we have eliminated the lunatic fringe theories, we are left with an enormous number of possible causes to take into consideration. Part of the problem is that there are several different causative factors at work, not only in language as a whole, but also in any one change. We can begin by dividing proposed causes of change into two broad categories. On the one hand, there are external sociolinguistic factors, that is, social factors outside the language system. On the other hand, there are internal psycholinguistic ones, that is, linguistic and psychological factors, which reside in the structure of the language and the minds of the speaker. That's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, I will continue the material from Kholila wulandari. When language changes, historical linguistics, also termed diachronic linguistics, is the scientific study of language change over time. Principal concern of historical linguistics include 1. To describe and account for observed change in particular language. 2. To reconstruct the prehistory of language and to determine the relatedness brought in them into language families or comparative linguistics. 3. To develop general theories about how and why language changes. 4. To describe the history of speaking communities. 5. To study the history of word etymology. Historical linguistics is founded on the uniformitarian principle, which is defined by linguist Donald Richard. As we can demonstrate significant change in the condition of language expression and use between some time in the observable past and the present. We must assume that the same types and distribution of structures, variation, change, etc. existed at the time in the past and in the present. divergence. Divergence is linguistic refer to one of the five principles by which grammaticalism can be detected, while it is taking place. The other four are layering, specialization, persistence, and the categorization. Just names a set of verbs substitutions to some text, namely the result of the process called split by Henry and Ra. When a lexical form undergoes grammaticalization to a critique of a fact, the origin form may remain as an autonomous lexical element and undergo the same change are ordinary lexical terms. Possible formal distinction between divergence and spillward would be that the latter seems to be confined to cases where one and the same sort has several targets, whereas the former merely refers to the drifting apart of previously more similar items. Okay, next, F convergence. Language convergence occurs primarily through division, the spread of a feature from one language to another. Because language convergence are highly dependent on the specific of the context between the language involved. Often convergence is motivated by bilingual code switching or code alternation, seeking for expressive capacity in good language. Bilingual speakers identify existing parallels between language and use the structure to express similar meaning, eventually leading to convergence or increasing the frequency of the similar patterns. Sociolinguistic factors may also influence the effect of language convergence as ethnic boundaries can function or barriers to language convergence. Ethnic boundaries may help to explain areas in which language prediction about language convergence do not link with reality, such as area with high inter-ethnic contact but low level of convergence. Okay, next the pigeons and crawlers. Pidgin language is a language which has no native speaker. Pidgin serves as a means of communication between people who do not have a common language. So a pidgin is no one's native language. Pidgin seems particularly likely to areas when two groups with different languages are communicating in a situation where there is also a third dominant language. Nobody uses pidgin as means of group identification or to express social distance, and so there is no pressure to maintain preventively redundant feature of a language or complicate pronunciations, whose main purpose is to signal how well education you are. Pidgin languages are get from the community effort of people who speak different languages. They tend to have simplified structure and small vocabulary compared with full developed language. Pidgin languages do not have high status or prestige, and to those who do not speak them, they often seem ridiculous language. A pidgin language has three identifying characteristics. 1. It is used in the restrict domain and function. 2. It has a simplified structure compared to the short language. 3. It generally has low practice and attract negative attitude, especially from outsiders. Pidgin often have short life. If they develop over restrict function, they disappear when the function disappears. Next, Kholila is a pidgin which has a native speaker. Many of the languages which are called pidgins are in effect no Creole language. They are learned by children as their first language and used in a wide range of domains. Creole is a pidgin which has expanded its structure and vocabulary to express the range of meaning and the rank of function required a first language. Okay, that's all for me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.